Welcome to the first session of our Old School Essentials campaign, set in the subarctic, freezing cold lands of Valkonen. Once the home of a great civilization, it suffered a disaster which was blamed on those who used magic to improve the lot of that civilization. The disaster took the form of great glaciers that spread across the land and a deep winter freeze that seemed to be engulfing the whole world. Those few survivors migrated south to warmer equatorial lands, much of their civilization forgotten and lost. Over the many hundreds of years that have passed, they have now clawed their way back up to a level of civilization embracing black powder weapons and starting to explore some forms of magic again, although there is still a deep distrust of magic since it was blamed for the original disaster which caused the great exodus from Valkonen in the first place. However, recent reports have arrived that the ice flows have retreated and some of the once fertile land of Valkonen is now once again habitable. For varying reasons, all their own, many pioneers have chosen to travel to the land of Valkonen and attempt to resettle it. One such ship has brought a group of colonists here and they have founded a small village. It's no more than sort of 4 or 5 large wooden buildings, and they have named this village New Seal Land because of the large amounts of seals their boats passed when they were reaching shore. As we look around, we can see the final timbers being hammered and nailed into place on the last of these 5 buildings that make up this small settlement. The headsman of the village, Josiah Means, a slightly older man, although obviously quite rugged and used to a hard lifestyle, with a slightly sort of greying beard, has just finished giving a speech about how proud he is of everyone pulling together to create this colony and reclaiming their ancient homelands. However, he warns the people there assembled, his friends, his family, the other villagers, that the great winter will soon be upon them and that everyone must prepare for it, lest they be swept aside when the cold weather returns. As we look around the village, we can see numerous different people who inhabit it. There is the blacksmith, Moses Hopkins. He's just like carrying an anvil and some of his equipment with the help of other villagers into one of the large buildings. There is the milliner, Christopher Duncan, who has been like patching up people's clothes during their exertions, and he's getting himself set, and he's managed to bring some like rough hewn fabrics with him to effect repairs on people's garments and such like. There is the slightly elderly woman, Dorothy Whiteford, who is known as a gatherer of herbs and a local wise woman. She tends to the various small ills of the villagers. She's been ranging out a little bit further with the help of some of the other villagers from a New Seal Land settlement to the nearby forests, which seem to have a great population of wolves lurking within. And the villagers imaginatively have named this area the Wolf Woods. But with the help of the other villagers, she's been able to gather some small amount of herbs from the outskirts that have been used to treat the various minor coughs and maladies that have plagued the colonists on their great journey here and the exertions that follow. And as we look across from them, we linger for a few moments on our 3 heroes of this game: John Cameron, Weimar Lonegrove, and Oscorus Uritoris. So, as we linger on John Cameron for a bit, Rob, describe for me, what does John Cameron look like?
He's a very young man, still in his teenage years. Very kind of rough and rugged looking. Kind of wears kind of animal clothes and furs and that kind of real. He's a hunter and trapper, and you can kind of look at him and know that he's a hunter and trapper.
Yeah.
He carries his father's musket, which is kind of a little bit too big for him.
Okay.
But he's actually a pretty decent shot, and has made his way since his parents passed, kind of hunting and gathering and kind of feeding himself. So he's a real kind of true pioneer, and has kind of come here looking for, I guess, to find his way in the world.
Indeed, and over the course of the last few weeks, as this wooden settlement has been taking shape, this village of New Zealand, John Cameron will no doubt have, with some of the other villagers, will have been responsible for going out and getting food. And in fact, you were probably one of the people who realised that there's a large population of wolves in the woods to the northeast. You'll have no doubt, since you have a firearm, you'll have no doubt gone out with the apothecary Dorothy Whiteford when she was gathering herbs to sort of help protect her and make sure she didn't fall to any ills. So that's John Cameron, our ranger and trapper. So, Johannes, tell me about Weimar Lone Grove.
So Weimar is a little bit older, so fully grown adult man, whereas Cameron is somewhat on the younger side. So Weimar is probably getting into his 30s, maybe. He is, if Cameron is the sort of archetypal true pioneer with bearing the muskets and the lot, Weimar is, I guess you would say, like the impoverished version of that. He I think is a former soldier of some kind, fallen on rather rough times, and he wears a tattered cloak, pinned to his like rough hide clothing by a very expensive brooch, which is the only thing he has really left from back home. And he carries a large longbow, a quiver stuffed full of arrows, an axe, the sort of woodsman regalia from times before. He doesn't carry the black powder. The one sort of, I guess, modern-ish, even that's becoming antiquated. He carries a short sword with him, which isn't a part of the hunting gear, but still it's to show the frontiersman that he is capable of defending himself. But that's the one thing that sort of stands out from him, like, oh, he's a woodsman, like the man of the woods. However, he doesn't really strike someone as the sort of pioneer trapper type that Cameron is. Even though he is a hunter as well, but he has, I guess, a more martial bearing, though he's clearly not dressed for that sort of thing anymore.
Splendid.
Come here to make a new life, because there's not much that he has going for him. So
Indeed, and it's a story that's shared by many of the villagers, because most established people back in your homeland will not have travelled here because they won't have wanted to sacrifice what they had. So the people of Rohaleen, which is where you guys have come from, which was like the new home of humanity, it's where the majority of them settled after the Great Exodus many hundreds of years ago. Most people who are established there and have settled lives, they're not willing to risk everything for the chance to resettle this ancient land of Valkonen, which is remembered really only in legends about the Exodus and this great freeze that happened many hundreds of years ago. So most people don't see it as a great thing. They're not wanting to risk all to travel over there. So a lot of people who have done are rather like yourself, Weimar. They don't have a lot in the old land of Rohaleen, and they're like, well, maybe I can make something on myself, like forge a new destiny for myself in Valkonen. And that is the law that has led many people to travel here. Okay, so Ian, tell us about Oscorris.
Sconis Unitaris is a young man, maybe in his early 20s, tousled hair, tall and thin. Obviously not a fighting type, going by the clothing he wears. It's of reasonable fashion, although perhaps slightly out of date and very much threadbare these days. Although you'd expect it was once expensive, he appears to be maintaining it as best he can. He carries very little in the way of weaponry. All you would see is the hilt of a dagger in his belt. But what he does carry are scrolls in the satchel and writing equipment. His demeanour is, you would get the impression that he's shy. He hardly ever indulges in eye contact. I guess you could take that as him being shifty or shy or something like that. But he always seems to look away. But those that can see him can actually see why. His eyes are almost fluorescently blue, a throwback from his genetic mother's side, for she was an elf.
Indeed. And as we know, unfortunately, with those of the elven blood, are looked on with some great fear and distrust, because the ancient legends that speak of the magic users who in their hubris brought down this great ice age upon the world, many of them were reputed to have blood or elven characteristics. So those who have carried that sort of heritage down are often looked upon with suspicion, and that has led to some of them wanting to experience somewhere where they can actually be free and they can make of themselves what they will. So a number of them have travelled to Valkonen. A number of ships travelled here. Obviously you guys are all on one ship, as were the rest of these villagers that you've now settled with. You're all part of this small community, this village of New Seal Land. You know from chat that's been going around the other villages that there is reputedly a day to the west over the great river. There is another settlement known as Castlemaine, and from what you'll have heard from rumours circulating amongst the other villagers is that apparently the boat carrying the pioneers who settled Castlemaine arrived shortly before yours, and they actually found the remnants of several stone buildings that they've just sort of re-inhabited. So they had a bit of a head start compared to you guys. They didn't have to build everything from scratch. And in fact, as we're talking about Castlemaine, Josiah Means has just reached that point of his speech where he's explaining about the other settlement across the Great River to the west. And he says, now, I'm not saying that the citizens of Castlemaine haven't struggled in their time. All I'm saying is that they had an advantage that we lack. Those ancient stone buildings that they have colonised. Although I can't say that I'd have wanted to build our village atop the bones of what remains. However, they're a religious community. They've reached out to us and they volunteered to provide us with some surplus supplies to our community to help us through the winter. It is my intent in the morning to send a delegation of trusted individuals to retrieve these supplies. And there's a bit of hubbub goes throughout the village. We then smash cut to the next morning, unless anyone has anything they wish to talk about with the villagers or deal with. So we cut to the next morning, the three of you having been chosen to be this delegation to travel to Castlemaine to retrieve these surplus supplies. You know from what the alderman Josiah has been able to tell you that Castlemaine is roughly 12-15 miles to the west across this great river. A number of the villagers are sort of like waving you off. It's early morning. there's still a gentle bit of frost clinging to the sort of scrubby, low-lying grass that dots the plains around here. To the northeast, you can see the tall, imposing pine trees of the Wolf Woods, and to the west, in the distance, you can just glimpse the great river, and beyond it, another forest. And can you each roll me a d6? Okay, so Weimar, as you're starting out on your travels, you're getting all your gear together, you're getting yourself set to go. As you're sort of looking out to the west across the rushing rivers, waters that run down to the coast and out into the blue sea beyond, you can see this dark pine forest to the west. But as the sunlight rising in the morning catches it, as it sort of slowly moves across the sky, you catch sort of faint glimmerings, as though like occasionally it catches on something chalky white amongst the branches of these trees, reflecting the light back at you.
Yeah, I will get the attention of my fellow travelers. I'll point to the distance and say, what do you make of that then? It's high up.
Now, John, you recall hearing during the chat as you were like traveling around and securing supplies and stuff like that, you remember hearing from one of the villagers, a Hiran Milliken, that they'd heard from some of the population of Castlemaine that the Whale Song Forest is a strange, cursed place littered with these skeletons of strange beasts.
Okay. So I wonder, Weimar, if that the bones of the creatures that live in that forest or that died in that forest many years ago.
Would be a great many years ago if we think it was on the ground to start with. It would have been a long time ago. I guess if we're gonna take the word of whoever that was.
Yeah.
Okay. That is...
Perhaps we can have a look when we're over there and get some proof that these stories are true or not.
I've talked to some sailors, and I think we might be able to make a good bit of trade. Either of you good with the blade carving? Because if we get some of that and we scrimshaw it, we could trade it to take back home. I guess home is here now, but to take back home to the other home, that might be very profitable. People do enjoy the strange maritime. I've been assured of this by sailors. I don't know it myself, but not much of a seaman myself. But I think if we get the chance, we should definitely take a look. There's a sizable piece of bone. Scroll on that and sell it.
I agree. Yes.
Okay, so hopefully you guys can see on the Roll20 map there is like a red map pin showing where you guys are currently in the settlement of New Seal Land. So what I'd like, obviously I'm going to break this down a bit more than I would normally, just because we're all getting used to like this system. So we're going to follow the wilderness procedure for traveling across the map. So that is that first of all, you guys decide your sort of course of travel. I'm assuming it's to the west towards Castlemaine. So the next thing to do is to determine whether you manage to keep going in a straight line, whether you manage to lose direction. So I'm going to ask one of you, it's up to you which one it is, to roll a d6. If you get a 1, you've got lost. Now, if you have any abilities that in your class that sort of alter this, I'm going to rely on you guys to shout it out. I'm just going by like the default rules.
Okay.
When,
I've got it lined
when
up.
you were, sorry, go on.
Yeah. Okay. I'm roll. So 3.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. So you guys start travelling across the map. As you're travelling...
Oscar will be taking notes, by the way.
That is absolutely fine. You've got parchment and a pen, and you see you're scribbling away. Obviously, you're moving sort of reasonably slowly because you're obviously on foot. You start travelling across the sort of broken, scrubby plains towards the Great River. You've been travelling for about 6 miles when you reach the shores of this great river. It's fast flowing, appears to be flowing from north to south, and as you sort of look to the south, following the direction of its flow, you can hear the rushing of the water heading past you. You can see sort of in the distance, maybe about 6-7 miles further to the south, you can see where the rushing torrent meets the waters of the sea in a great bay, and you can see the glassy expanse of the Arctic waters beyond. The river is, like I say, fairly fast flowing. It looks to be pretty deep. It's quite wide. There doesn't appear to be any bridge there at the moment.
If I approach it and put my hand in, how cold does the water feel? Is it like glacier?
The water is extremely cold. You suspect, given the temperature, I mean, like you literally like dip your hand in and you have to like take it out pretty quickly. You expect it must be flowing down from perhaps one of the great glaciers to the north. It's not fully like glacial water, so perhaps there's like slightly warmer waters flowing into it from elsewhere, but it's pretty damn cold.
Okay. How wide is the river? At the part we're at?
The river's probably about, I don't know, probably 100 foot.
Okay. And is it fast flowing? Sorry, did you say?
It is fairly fast flowing. As you look, you can see that there are sort of rocky sort of outcroppings sort of like jutting up from the water at various points, which are churning up the waters and probably also helping to like stop it from being quite so glacially cold and sort of agitating it. You can see the foam spraying up as the water hits these many rocks that are dotted amongst the river.
Okay. Would it be reasonable that kind of pioneers like us might be able to make a canoe or a raft or something to that effect?
You certainly could. However, in order to do that, you would need to obviously get like a fair supply of wood. So that would involve you like detouring to somewhere. You either have to go back to the village, see if you can scrounge any wood from there. But you know that most of the supplies that the village have been used to make these buildings and these shelters. So the only other real source of wood nearby is the wolf forest to the northeast.
Okay.
We might go upriver a bit to see if it.
There's a ford further up.
Yeah, and because it lets into the sea over there, it's wider on this end, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay.
So maybe if we go up the river.
Yeah, because we'll also have to bring the supplies back over the river as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go follow the river for like 6 miles north and see if we've come across a ford of some description.
Okay. So obviously you guys are following the river, so there's no chance of you getting lost here. So you travel north for 6 miles. You don't see anything like a ford. However, the river, as Weimar rightly surmised, the river is a good deal narrower in this section, and there are still many rocks jutting out of it. You think it might be possible to use the rocks to cross the river here, but obviously they're slippy, they're covered in spray and foam, So it's not an entirely without risk proposition, but it's doable.
Okay. Well, I do have rope, so I can tie the rope around myself, and you guys can hold the other end of it, and I can try.
Mm-hmm.
And if I do slip, you can pull me out of the water.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess the next I can let the rope go, and the next person can come across, and then the third person can come across finally.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, that's not a problem. So I'm going to ask John Cameron, can you please make me a dex roll? Okay, so Cameron gets about halfway across, sort of picking his way quite gingerly across these rocks. You two are holding onto the rope. He's just about made it to like halfway. He puts his foot on a rock, and the rock unexpectedly shifts, and you see him sort of lurch over to one side and start to go into the water.
Okay, reel him back.
Okay, no
Or
problem.
towards the rocks. I don't know if he's able to climb up or...
Okay, you guys managed to reel him back to your side of the riverbank. Unfortunately, you are quite wet now, Cameron, which isn't too much of a problem at the minute. Like I say, the sun's just coming up. We're at the start of summer here. For there are only 2 seasons in Valkonen, a short summer and a long, bitterly cold winter. But when it starts getting dark, or if the wind starts picking up, that's going to be a problem if you can't manage to get yourself dried out.
Okay.
But you are back on the bank with your companions.
Okay. Is there any kind of shrubs or forestry or anything, any kind of fuel nearby?
There are a number of low-lying, sort of hardy shrubs around, yeah.
Okay. So I guess what I'm looking to do is to light a very small fire and kind of try and dry my clothes and get something resembling warm again.
If we're interested and want to take a bit of time, since we're here, I can take a trunk from the woods over yonder. I point at the edge of the wolf woods there. And I'll haul it back in. And then maybe we put it in, because there's the rocks, put it there as a sort of extremely makeshift and poor. I hesitate to say bridge, because it's not that, but it's something to use to get ourselves across. So Cameron, if you're fine, you went into the water and you're still relatively good. So even if we fall, we might use the trunk to basically walk forward the thing by leveraging it against the rocks. Now, of course, we will be wet by the time we're over, and we can't really come back with a lot of supplies, but I suppose when we're coming back, let's actually fashion a real crossing apparatus. But
I wonder, do we just, since we're not so close to the forest now, do we just go and cut down a number of trees and build a small boat?
That is raft, yeah.
Yeah, that we can leave on the other side, and even use to travel down closer to Castlemaine. And also the actions of cutting the trees down will also help me get warm again.
Off to the woods then.
Yes.
So we're going to the this hex. Yep.
Yeah.
Out come the axe and
chop, chop, chop,
chop, chop, chop. And me and Cameron both have rope, so we're gonna try and make a raft.
Are we better off making a canoe? Just kind of using it to dig out the...
It's going to take a lot of time, though. Even not like I'm not saying a raft doesn't, but
yeah,
if we make an actual canoe, it's going to be a whole thing.
It's just with so many rocks in the river, I wonder would we just be...
John.
We may.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, Oscaris, please.
Call me Oscar. We may find a tree that's fallen over that's perhaps rotted on the core that may be easier to fashion.
Okay, I don't know how that works. Not really the boat righty type myself, but sure.
Just a thought.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So I guess let's look for a fallen log.
Okay, so I'm going to ask one of you. It's up to you who it is. Roll me a d6. If you get a 1 or a 2, you've managed to find a sort of sufficiently sized tree that's fallen down and that isn't completely rotten and useless.
Okay, I'll do that. Ooh, 1.
Okay, yeah. So it takes a fair amount of time. So obviously you've done quite a bit of travelling. It's another 6 miles to get to like the outskirts of the Wolf Woods. So it's actually starting to just sort of get to like twilight. So and it's starting to get darker. The temperature is dropping noticeably. Luckily, you've sort of warmed up a bit in your travels, but you're still starting to get quite cold, Cameron. However, as you're all exploring the outskirts of the Wolf Woods, looking around, you do indeed find what appears to be a large tree that appears to have collapsed under its own weight. And you can see perhaps one of the villagers from your own village started trying to chop it down or something and then gave up. You're not sure, but there does appear to be like a large chunk of it missing already that you could perhaps turn into a canoe of some kind.
Did the village elder give us a time limit even?
No, he just said that the village of Castlemaine had offered to share some supplies and that he was going to send you guys to pick them up.
Oh, good. I'll help as much as I can, but I shall be lookout. I'll watch out for any dangers.
Okay, in which case, Oscar, can you please make me a surprise roll? That's a D6. A result of 1 or 2 means that you are surprised.
Ooh.
Okay, so whilst John and Weimar are sort of like looking at this tree, they're like manhandling it into position, working out how they can like carve it out, etc. And you're sort of keeping a lookout from a small rise, Oscar, you start noticing several sort of fairly large furred bodies slinking through the woods. And as the moon's sort of rising, as it's getting more towards actual night, you can see that there appear to be a number of wolves slowly converging on your current position, no doubt drawn by the sounds of activity as you're having to sort of like deal with these trees.
Weimar, John.
What's up, Oscar?
Wolves.
Okay, and how far away from us are the wolves?
Okay.
They'll be here very soon.
I will tell you how far away they are, because handily the encounter procedure covers this. Okay. That's obviously not worked, but never mind. Okay, so because you're on their home turf, they're used to sort of like slinking through the woodland unseen, and they're obviously trying to move. They're almost stalking you. By the time you see them, Oscar, I mean, you're a bit sort of away from your companions. You're on this rise. They're only like 10 foot away from you.
Oh, crap. Run.
Yeah, not a problem. You quickly skedaddle back to your companions. So that's not a problem.
Hide behind Weimar.
So once I know that there's something coming, I want to pull out my rifle, and really what I'm trying to do is to shoot one of them, but also try and make enough noise to scare the rest of them off.
Okay, so what we need to do now is we need to roll initiative. So someone on your side needs to roll a d6 for yourselves, and I will roll a d6 for the wolves.
Oh, not good.
Okay, so the wolves are going first. They are going to... Okay, so they're not actually just like full bore charging towards you. They seem to be being quite cautious because, after all, they don't know exactly how many of you there are. They're sort of like stalking around. Obviously, they're animals. They're not just going to charge in and sort of try and like deal with prey that may be more well equipped than they are. So they're sort of slowly circling around, probably trying to get a better gauge on your numbers, and they are going to use their first action to sort of move themselves into position, sort of fanning out around you. As they're doing this, you can see there must be at least 10 or 11 of these like normal sized wolves with this sort of grey white pelts, and they're sort of fanning out, obviously trying to surround you. So that's their move. Okay, so
John, can I ask, what is the situation with the boat? How far have we made progress with it? Well, the boat. I mean, a rotten canoe.
By the time the wolves turned up, you were pretty much done with the canoe.
Okay.
And it's obviously the noise of you guys sort of like hollowing it out and getting it ready that's attracted their attention. Okay, so since they've done their move and you guys aren't surprised, it's over to you guys to do your actions.
I'm going to shoot at one of them and try and scare them all off.
Okay, that's absolutely grand. So, since we're using the firearms rules from Lamentations of the Flame Princess for this, make your shot.
Oh boy.
I miss.
Yeah, you definitely used up your rolls.
Yes, yes, I did.
Okay.
Terrifying.
Now, obviously, that's going to take you like 10 rounds to like reload that.
Yeah.
However, as per the rules in here, the discharge of a firearm causes an immediate morale check on certain types of foes. Certainly it does in this case because they're normal animals. They're not a supernatural beast or anything like that. They're just wolves looking for easy prey. So I'm going to make a morale check for them, which I will be astounded if they pass. And indeed they don't. So as you like fire off your rifle, there's a loud crack of the discharge of your weapon. There's a billowing puff of this acrid smoke comes out of it. You don't hit any of these wolves, but as the loud noise echoes throughout the woods, the wolves immediately scatter and disappear back into the trees.
Okay. So I'll reload as quickly as I can and then suggest that we get our canoe and maybe get onto the far side of the river.
Yeah, I'm already setting up to haul it back there.
Yeah, you sort of turn around to be like, oh, why not? We should probably get any time. Like, carrying it to the water's edge, probably with Oscar helping him.
Yeah, I shall help as much as possible.
Okay, no problems.
What shall I do? Shall I hold this end? Oh, it's heavy.
Yeah, no, just push.
Okay, so you've got the canoe to the water's edge. You can see all these rocky sort of outcroppings that I described previously in the water sort of rushing over it, foaming as it heads down towards the bay. Are you just like pushing off and jumping in?
I think so, yeah. Well,
I guess we've also made a few paddles as well.
Yeah, I was assuming you made some paddles.
I just didn't want to jump in if I didn't have no paddles.
I'm definitely not, and I'm a bit harsh sometimes, but I'm definitely not harsh enough when like jump in a canoe to be like, you didn't say you were making any paddles. Yeah,
please make a dexterity roll and break your neck.
I'm gonna creak.
I'm gonna I'm going to assume that they're not really sort of paddles as such. You've basically just got like sort of sturdy branches, you know, that you can like shove it off rocks and sort of almost like gondola style sort of.
Yeah.
Okay, so you push the canoe into the water, you all jump in, and soon you're swept off down river. Now, I'm going to ask which of you, it's going to be a strength check. I'm going to ask one of you to make a strength check, and this is just, you will make it to a point where you can reach the shore. This is just to see how well your sort of makeshift canoe survives, because obviously you're having to like push it past these rocks and stuff like that. So can one of you please make me a strength check? It's up to you which of you is the strongest and which is to do that.
Will I try? Are you?
Yeah, you feel free. I'm like John average over here, so.
Okay, so as you're sort of heading down this rapid flowing river, there are a few unnerving bumps and lurches as you go over smaller rocks, but the canoe's still in pretty good shape when you make it to the shoreline. Now, by the time you've made it to the shore and you've pushed it, so obviously you're all sweating again from the exertion of having to like pole this canoe and sort of try and push it to the shore despite the river trying to sweep you out to sea. And it is the depths of night by the time you manage to like get onto shore. You're all breathing quite heavily, like I say, you're all sweating under your furs. The temperature has dropped significantly now. It's getting very cold indeed.
Is there any lights coming from Castlemaine?
Oddly enough, no. As you look in the direction where you think Castlemaine should be, based on where you've been travelling, you've got a reasonable idea of where you are, because obviously you've been using natural landmarks to plot your course.
Yeah, and there's only the river.
Exactly,
right?
yeah. So. There's the river and the woods, so you're pretty much like, well, if we've gone down river a bit and we've come ashore sort of roughly here, it should be somewhere to the southwest of us. However, as you look to the southwest, and there's very little moonlight at the moment, you can't see any signs of lights or fires.
Do you think it's a thing of belief? Like they turn out in the evening?
And how late is it, John? Like it's
late. It's like 11 o'clock at night.
Okay.
Very dark here.
Yeah.
In other words.
However, as you guys are looking around, and it's very difficult to see sort of like even a few feet in front of you unless you've got lit torches. You can hear this. Getting closer and closer.
From where?
It appears to be coming sort of from the west, southwest, and as you watch, you see what appears to be a horse, a brown horse. It has a saddle on it, like a fairly crude saddle, but a saddle nonetheless. However, it does not have a rider, and it appears to be just sort of like running roughly in your direction. It's not trying to like deliberately get to you, it's just vaguely heading in your direction.
Okay, so I'd like to reach out and try and grab it by the bridle and try and calm it down. And I have some animal training background.
Indeed, you
so
do.
Hopefully that will.
And I'm not gonna make you make a roll for that, because it's just a scared horse. Again, it's not like a beast trying to attack you. You've got animal training. So as the horse sort of goes past, you sort of grab hold of the bridle, the reins that are sort of hanging, flapping loose as it's running, and you're sort of like whispering softly to it and like muttering softly, trying to calm it down. And after maybe 5-10 minutes, you've got it calmed down to a reasonable degree. And as you're doing this, you can actually see, John, that it has a wound on its right flank, like a claw mark.
Okay.
Down its right flank. It's quite deep.
Okay.
It's not going to be fatal, but...
Okay. Okay, so I guess what I'll try and do then is clean the wound as best I can.
Yeah, that's fine. You get some water from the river. like I say, it's glacial water, so it's pretty pure. You put some water on it, you clean it out as best as you can. The horse whinnies and neighs a bit while you're doing this. Obviously, it's in some discomfort, but you do manage to like clean it out.
Okay.
You're pretty sure the wound's not infected.
Okay. Cool. Okay. So assuming we've put the boat up and it's safely out of the water, I'll turn to Weimar and Oscar and say, I think we should follow the tracks of the horse and see where its rider is.
Yeah. Yeah, might as well.
Okay.
Could be people having a rough time. Because you're not just gonna let go of your horse around here,
No.
are you? So
No, you're not.
probably best get to making sure that your powder there is dry,
Yes.
because it might be a thing. I hope not, but it might be a thing.
I actually have a powder horn, so the powder didn't actually get wet, which is... It seemed like extravagant at the time, but now that I've fallen into the river, I'm like, that was such a good boy.
Turns out, yeah, they've been thinking about it.
Okay, now if you're attempting to follow the horse's tracks, I believe rangery types have an ability called tracking.
Yeah.
Okay, so at first level, your base chance of success is 20%. You're on soft ground, so that gives you an extra plus 20. The tracks are recent, so no modifier to that. So you have a 40% chance of being able to follow the horse's tracks. So make yourself a roll.
John, I bet this isn't covered, but is there a way for me to assist? I'm not a ranger, but my sort of profession is hunting.
Okay, so as you correctly guessed, there isn't a specific rule to cover it. But what I'm going to say is that the assistance of Weimar will add an additional 5% to your roll.
Okay. Ooh, not so much.
Okay, so
It's very dark, lads. I'm sorry, I can't find...
It is very dark, and it's not that you don't find the tracks. It's the fact that this horse has obviously been sort of like running around for like a fair old while. So it's like crisscrossed its tracks and it's been running around sort of in circles. So there's almost too many tracks for you to say, just go, yes, this horse came from there. So you found the tracks, but there's not like a single trail that you can easily follow.
Okay. So should we try and find the village now, or do you want to wait until daylight? And
I don't necessarily... This is the thing, right? You never want to go out when it's dark.
No.
Because you don't want to be the one with the torch, right?
No.
Then the other side of that particular coin is whoever lost the horse did it either in the very recent past, or they might otherwise be in a spot of bother. So they might not have time until the morning. So I guess this is when we decide that. Oscar, do you have any ideas on that? Because there's risks either way.
True.
Yeah. I think we should find somewhere to camp and see the night through. It's pointless wandering around. We may get hurt ourselves.
So, John, of the GM variety, is there a place one could try and set up a night spot?
Okay, well, sort of having a look around as much as you can obviously, as I said, see that there's another forest to the west. It runs fairly close to the edge of the river, but there is a thin strip of sort of land that you're in now, which is effectively clear. The forest doesn't run right up to the edge of the river, so you could quite conceivably sort of either camp in the forest or you could camp in the sort of empty ground nearer to the edge of the river. And that's just from what you can see at the minute. Obviously, you could wander around a bit and look for somewhere better. But as Oscar said, sort of travelling at night in the pitch black could be quite dangerous.
Yeah. Is there any kind of like little hills or kind of shelter, or is it like pure open as far as we can see?
It's pretty much open as far as you can see.
Okay.
Okay, well, I don't think there's a lot of options here, so I'm going to say probably let's stick as close as we can to the water, because in that, if something goes wrong, we can have the canoe ready and cross. So
that makes sense to me. Yeah.
Okay, so so we're gonna announce ourselves by a fire. Because I think the night is cold, so
the night is extremely cold, to the point where, like, if it, I mean, you can't really see this because it's too dark, but if it were lighter or there were more moonlight, you would be able to see the sort of plumes of your breath emerging from you. The temperature has dropped quite severely, and you're all starting to feel a bit of a chill because you obviously sweated under your clothes with your exertions of the previous day. Okay.
Yes, so forage for some kindling,
food,
and,
kindle,
get the fire going, and dig into the rations. I think.
Yep. So each of you will need to consume one of your rations. Or if you wish, you can choose to forage and look for food.
I'm gonna try and hunt in the darkness because that's gonna go well.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. So make me a D6 roll. Normally you would have a 1 in 6 chance, but I believe you're a sort of huntsman type anyway, aren't you?
Yeah, that's my.
So I'll give you a 2 in 6 chance.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's see. Come on.
Do we both roll, or is it one roll for the group?
It's one roll for the group.
Perfect.
However, that's for hunting. So if someone else wants to forage, you can do that.
Yeah.
I'd definitely like to forage.
Okay, so roll a D6. You've got a 1 in 6 chance, standard.
There we go.
I actually have a 2 in 6 chance because I'm a ranger.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just reading out the standard rules. If you've got any
that's perfect.
modifiers, I trust you guys to put them in. Okay, so your foraging goes astoundingly well. You actually venture into the sort of very edge of the Whale Song Forest, and now you're in it. You can see that what Weimar saw from a distance while you were in the village of New Zealand seems to be true. And as you're sort of exploring the edges of it, at various intervals, you can see the skeletons of various piscine creatures, fish, etc. But they're almost bedecking the branches of the great pine trees here, like some sort of grisly festive decorations.
Okay.
However, as you're searching around, berries, roots, etc. seem to be fairly plentiful on the outskirts, and by the time you've returned, you're literally like holding like an armful of like berries and various like small sort of fruits like blackberries and stuff like that, and various plants that you know can be eaten, and you've actually got enough food for 6 people.
Okay.
With your foraging. So for this, none of it's going to last. It's all fairly perishable, but for this evening, none of you need to use your rations. John comes back from his like foraging and just like dumps down this like bit holding his like his shirt up to like gather the berries in, just like dumps them down next to the fire, and there is easily enough food there to sustain you all. You get a fire going, and it's soon crackling away nicely, for the first time casting a little bit of light around this area, a dull sort of amber glow. You can still hear the sound of the river flowing past you to the east, and with this new source of light, as you look to the west, you can see the outskirts of the Whale Song Forest as I've just described them to John, and you can just about make out maybe 3, 4, 5 miles to the west. You can just about make out what look to be the shape of buildings, but they're not lit. You can just sort of like vaguely make out these dark shapes sort of rising out of the landscape. And you all settle in for the evening. I assume one of you's going to be on watch at various times.
Yeah.
Yep.
Definitely.
Okay. Yeah. That's absolutely fine. The night, although extremely cold, passes without incident, thanks to the supplies that John has managed to forage. Pretty much whoever's on watch just sort of like feeds the fire as well to like keep it going throughout the night, because obviously it would otherwise burn down. So although you don't have a comfortable night, at least you're warm. Nothing ranges out of the forest to cause you any significant problems. And the next morning the sun starts rising above the horizon and the temperature slowly begins to rise a little. Now the sun is in the sky, looking across to the west, you can indeed see that the shapes that you believe to be buildings are stone buildings, small sort of stone huts. You can't hear any sounds of like talking or anything like that, or any village bells being rung, or see any lights or fires or anything like that, but you can see the shape of these stone buildings about 6 miles to the southwest.
Okay, and now that we're it's daylight again, is there any sign of the horse's rider or any kind of blood on the snow or anything that we can see in the distance?
There does appear to be some blood on the snow, although you think it's probably come from the horse.
Okay. And if I find out where the snow on the horse is, can I check the tracks there and see if I have any sense of what attacked the horse?
Okay, you think, as you're looking at it, that the claw marks look almost like they were made by a bear of some kind. However, they don't look exactly like a bear's claw marks, but they're very similar.
Okay. Okay, so it's strange that there's nothing moving in the village. I suggest that we approach really slowly and quite quietly and see if we can get some sense of what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay, so you all start moving towards this small cluster of stone villages. Like I say, it's about 6 miles away. As you reach the village of Castlemaine, it becomes clear that something horrible has transpired here. There are the remnants of small, shattered wooden buildings scattered around the snow-covered ground. Blood stains the snow everywhere you look, and even some of the stone structures show signs of damage on them. There is...
Damn.
Other than that, there are no signs of life in the village.
Okay. Is there any tracks that show what might have happened or anything left in the snow?
Okay, make your tracking roll. Same chance as previous. Obviously, you can still get the plus 5% for Weimar assisting.
Yeah, that looks good.
Okay, so as you're looking around again, there are lots of tracks, but now it's daylight, you have an easier time at making them out. You can see what appear to be numerous track marks of people moving around. The way the tracks are scattered, it looks as though some sort of, perhaps like a panicked defence of the village took place here. And there are also large tracks that resemble that of a great bear. Those tracks appear to sort of enter the village from the west and then sort of head back in a similar direction.
And the human tracks, do they scatter, or is there any sense of what happened to the people?
Okay, you continue exploring the village, and as I said, it appears as though when this creature attacked the village, after the villagers came out to defend it, you do indeed find a couple of bodies lying sort of half buried in the snow as you're searching about. They all appear to have been severely mauled.
Okay. Can I... Sorry, go ahead.
I'll say, whilst John's examining all these tracks, what are Weimar and Oscar up to?
Oscar is quite perturbed by this sight, so he's he's trying not to look at the dead bodies or much of the blood. But it does seem odd that all this mayhem has been caused by a bear. Is that right? It seems excessive. But are these buildings all timber, or were they built with stone?
It looks as though, as you're sort of like, you've moved a little bit away from where John is, because obviously you don't want to look at the bodies. And as you're looking around, it looks as though there were originally some stone buildings here, which is unsurprising because you know that they're supposed to have colonised some existing buildings. But it also looks as though they built some like additional wooden structures, like smaller buildings around, most of which are now trashed. The stone buildings are damaged. However, as you're moving around, you pass by the ruins of a small collapsed wooden building, and you're just about to turn away, Oscar, when you hear the sound of like a faint sobbing coming from inside the partially collapsed wooden building.
If Weimar's looking my way, I shall wave him over and I shall approach the half-collapsed building slowly.
Yeah.
Hello.
Weimar has been and will continue to look around and approach now Oscar with an arrow now.
Okay. Oscar, can you please roll me a d6? You won't get anything but a 1.
Don't say that, John. Suppose I'll use the dice roller. Here we go.
Okay, so as you're sort of approaching this partially collapsed wooden building, sort of like calling out, a firearm is discharged from inside the wooden building. There's a loud the crack of a black powder weapon, and a faint wisp of smoke drifts out from the wooden structure. Now it's obvious whoever was inside has just sort of like fired it in like a wild panic. They've not aimed at you. They've just sort of like heard a noise and gone.
Okay. Dive to one side.
Yeah, you throw yourself dramatically to one side, and you hear a panicked and terrified voice from inside shout, "You'll not take me, devil!"
If possible, because Oscar is diving away, and I was already going that way, because it's a black powder weapon. I'm gonna drop my bow and arrow, draw my sword and my hand axe, which isn't really the thing I use for a weapon, but oh well. And I'm just gonna like bull charge wherever this person is firing from, thinking, oh well, they used their shot, so they're not gonna fire.
Okay, so you charge up to this small, like partially collapsed, like wooden shack, basically. So like kick open the door, and as you do, you find the entirety of the inside, like all the furniture's everywhere. It's all been trashed, and there's a panicked-looking man in like ragged clothes with a small sort of like flintlock pistol, and he's very sort of panically, with like shakily hands, trying to like reload this like pistol. He hasn't got time to reload that pistol. He just like kick open the door, and you stood there with your short sword and your axe, and he's like,
basically the idea is like rush them, not even trying to like necessarily kill anyone, but like get in their face so they can't reload the thing. So like if they're trying to reload it, like because the axe has kind of a hook, so like hook it with the axe and so like yank it away.
You knock the pistol out of his shaking hands with no real effort whatsoever. However, the fellow's reaction is somewhat surprising, because as you do this, rather than like flinching away or trying to punch you or anything like that, he actually sort of like, because obviously he's like on the floor sort of trying to reload this, he actually sort of like throws his arms around your legs, not to try and trip you up, as though almost as though he's sort of like embracing you, and he's like, oh my god, thank you.
Okay, so and I guess because he's going for the legs, like I like spin the short sword around and like get ready to come down with it, and then I realize like he's sobbing, I guess, and like
tears are streaming down his face.
And I drop the weapons again. I like, grab the fellow's head. I was like, don't do that.
He's like,
whoever you are.
He says, I'm sorry. I thought you were that devil. Could come back to take me. And he sort of like clutches onto your legs like he's a drowning man clinging to the timbers of a wrecked ship amidst a tempest.
there's no devils here, but there was almost 2 unnecessarily dead men. Please, and I'm trying to like pry him up from the floor.
He looks quite malnourished. He has like no real strength, so you can easily sort of like prise him off. Obviously, John, you'll have heard this going on, so you can come into this scene when and if you see fit. And you sort of gently like remove him from your legs, Weimar, and he almost like collapses. You can see he's obviously running on like adrenaline and like nervous energy, and now he's seeing you guys like other people. Just the relief flows through him, and like all the energy goes out of him, and he pretty much just like slumps to the floor where you put him.
Okay, so I'll if someone else is coming in there, I'll like motion towards the guy, set down my pack, and I'm digging out like a piece of jerky from my rations.
Yep.
To like stick into the guy's hands.
No problems. Cross off one of your rations. He takes it off you and he says, "Oh, thank you." And then he like greedily like devours this like he's not eaten anything in days. He barely pauses to chew it. He eats it so quickly, just like crams it into his face. You can see he looks extremely nervous. Like whenever one of you moves or like there's a sound, he's like.
I'll go and crouch down next to him.
Yeah.
Incidentally, because I went for a half health, I've had to switch a couple of stats around.
That's
I
fine.
needed at least charisma 9, so it's gone up to 12.
That's fine.
So I guess I'm the talker.
The face.
So, yeah. What happened here, Mr.
Okay, he says, McGee, Horatio McGee. He says, I don't know exactly what happened. I was inside my house and and he looks around this like shabby, almost like annihilated shack, and he's like, I tried going out to help, but something struck me and it must have knocked me out. And he sort of like reaches up to his head and you can see there's like a deep cut across his forehead.
That looks nasty.
He says, when I awoke, I thought I heard a child's voice calling out for help, and I was just about to go out to see if I could help, and then I saw something large and furry moving outside the house, and through the cracks in the wood, I glimpsed this great beast, and you may think I'm delirious, but I tell you now, the voice, it was coming from the beast itself, some devil sent to destroy our village.
And what did the beast say?
It sounded like a child's voice calling out for help.
Oh. And when was this?
So, 3 days ago. I've every time I think it must have taken some of the others away. Every time I've thought about going out, I've heard it moving, and I've not dared leave the house. I've had, apart from what your friend gave me, and he sort of holds up a shaky hand, gesturing at Weimar. I've not dared leave, and I've had nothing to eat in 3 days.
Mm. And how long is it since you last heard him here?
He says it was a couple of days ago I last heard it.
Okay.
And in fact, as he's saying that, from some distance off, you hear a voice going, "Help! Help!
I'm gonna go take a look.
Help!"
Get that pistol loaded, and I'll like motion towards the thing on the floor.
Okay, so as you're looking around and you're sort of like listening, from one of the sort of larger surviving stone buildings, the voice appears to be coming from the other side of it. And this voice carries on like, "Help! Help!"
I'll go get my my bow and arrow, and
I'll get my rifle ready and try and move with the opposite direction from Weimar so that we're not in the same place.
Okay.
Does it sound like a child?
No, it just sounds like a normal adult.
If possible, is it like from behind a building?
Yeah.
Strafe around, like some distance away, with the arrow sort of ready. So sort of when if the building is like this, then like moving this way and trying to see if there's anything behind the building.
Okay. So, can you please make me a roll? I'm just going to check the sheet to see what's most applicable. Boom, boom, boom. I think we'll probably go with a dex roll.
I think that's how it works. Yeah, the roll works, but the result doesn't.
Okay, so you creep round the side of the building. John, you're sort of going a bit wide in a different direction. As you creep round the building, you see what appears to be this tall, sort of, I mean, it must be like 9 foot tall if it was stood up, sort of silver-tipped, furred bear. But where a normal bear's face would be, it's almost as though the skull of the bear has grown through its fur. So it almost appears as though the flesh has been sort of like flensed off the actual face of the bear. And you can see it's in the process of sort of basically like ripping chunks of meat out of a body, no doubt one of the villagers, and sort of greedily devouring that saliva running out of its mouth. As you move round, you accidentally knock one of the like little bits of rubble, and there's a loud like. The bear immediately turns to face you. It opens its fanged maw wide. However, instead of a huge bellowing roar emerging, you hear this voice go, "Help!" coming from inside the jaws of this skull-like bear. And then it starts bounding across the ground towards you, saliva dribbling from its maw. So, can one of you guys make a D6 initiative roll?
Do you want to do it, Cameron? You've been... Okay.
Okay, so you guys are going to get to act first. This huge skull bear creature is pounding towards Weimar, obviously getting ready to like leap on him with its claws. And each time it opens its mouth, instead of a growl, a voice, each time slightly different, comes out of its mouth shouting for help. Although as it's sort of like roaring, the voice takes on an aggressive, sort of almost like blood-curdling tone.
Okay.
Okay.
So I think I'll be kind of 25 feet to the side, and what I want to try and do is shoot the creature before it gets to Weimar.
Okay, so make your attack roll.
Okay, which is here. Ooh. Okay.
If this is your rifle, I forgot this previously, so I do apologise. There is a 2 in 10 chance of a rifle misfiring, so you need to roll me a d10.
Okay. Eight.
Okay, so your rifle does discharge. So obviously, if you misfire, they don't have to make a morale check. It just goes.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is a loud as you fire off this rifle. You miss the creature, but it does need to make a morale check. So I'll roll for that. Okay, however, it passes its morale check and continues barreling towards Weimar. Weimar, what are you doing?
There were intact buildings, right? Not all of them were demolished. Okay. I'm going to sling the bow on my back, run to the buildings, and try and get into one.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, it's a very small village, so you won't have a problem doing that. Although, to be honest, you're not sure like the wooden door of the building you're into is going to stand up to this creature for very long. But you are inside one of the buildings.
Yeah.
Okay, Oscar, what are you doing?
I'll turn to this chap. McGee, did you say his name was?
Indeed, Horatio McGee.
Horatio McGee. I'll
He's sort of trying to scramble like further back into his house as he's heard of this creature, and he looks absolutely terrified to the point where he's almost like gibbering with fright.
do you have a spear?
He's like, and he points towards the far wall, and you can see what looks to be like a hunter's spear sort of leant up against the wall.
Right.
It doesn't look to be in very good condition, but serviceable.
Snatch it up and get ready to go outside to assist if necessary.
Okay, no problems. So you grab hold of this spear, does D6 damage, you run outside. You can see the bear creature on its turn. It barrels towards the building that's got Weimar in, and it pretty much just like it pretty much demolishes the door, like the wooden door that's on the building you're in, Weimar. But that is going to take its turn. It pretty much crashes into the door and demolishes it, although it's too big to get through like the little wooden door. So basically just like its head sort of coming through and like its 4 paws.
Okay, that's Cameron then, I think.
Well, it's up to you guys what turn you go. What order you going?
Well, I'm happy to get that order.
Okay, so Cameron, obviously it's going to take you 10 rounds to reload your...
Yeah. Okay, so the creature has stuck its head in the door.
Yeah, basically for John and Oscar, you can just see like the back end of this creature sort of sticking out through the door. Its 4 paws and its skull-like face are inside the building where Weimar's gone.
Okay, so what I would like to try and do is kind of run up behind it. This is such a terrible idea. What I really want to do is try and get on its back, right? And kind of not so much on its back, but kind of like a run and jump onto the back of it, and then I really want to try and stick my I have like what I consider to be like a Jim Bowie knife, like a big 8-inch knife. I want to try and stick it into the back of its neck, where its neck is kind of going through the door.
Okay, so is your main intent doing this, which isn't a problem, you can do that, is your main intent to damage the creature or to basically be like riding on the back of it? What's your main intent?
It's kind of a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B.
I understand. That's absolutely so what I'm going to say is jumping up on the back of it's no problem because it's otherwise occupied trying to get Weimar. So jumping on the back of it's not a problem. So I'm going to say make an attack roll. If you hit with that attack roll, you manage to get on its back and you've sunk your Bowie knife into it. If it starts like thrashing around, you will have to make like a strength check to like stay on it.
Okay, that's fair enough. Let's see how this goes. Ooh, yes, I hope.
Indeed, that is a hit. So you stab your Bowie knife into the back of this creature, inflicting 5 points of damage on it. It roars loudly, so in the confines of the building, obviously you don't really know what's going on, Weimar, because you can just see its head like coming through. This skull fanged mouth opens up again. It goes, help! What are you doing, Weimar?
Is there any furniture in the house?
There's maybe like a couple of stools, the broken remnants of a table.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like a couple of bedrolls.
So, are there eyes in the skull face?
Indeed, there are. You can see the eyes are sort of set in the sockets. Like I say, it's almost as though sort of like the skull has been like moved to the outside of the face, so it's not like undead, like gaping eye sockets. It's still very much a creature, but it's got like this almost sort of armor plated
exoskeleton
sort of,
head.
Exoskeleton face basically.
Yeah. Okay. So, would it be feasible to light a torch
Yeah.
as my action.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, you're not moving, so you can do that as your move action.
Yeah. So basically, like, get behind the table and get a torch out, tinderbox, light myself a torch.
Yep. Not a problem.
And I presume that's it for
Yep.
my action.
Okay, so you've lit your torch. Oscar, you're still outside. You can hear this creature roaring. You can see that Cameron's on the back of it with his knife sunk into it. There's blood flowing freely into its fur.
Well, he obviously knows what he's doing, does Cameron, so I'll go and help. Charging with the spear.
Make your attack with your spear.
Oh.
Okay, so you stab at this creature and you score a shallow wound on it, but it doesn't really appear to cause it any undue harm.
Right, okay. Just making it more angry. Oops.
Indeed. So, I'm going to say in its turn, because obviously now it's been stabbed, it's effectively, it withdraws from the... Because previously it was like, oh, there's Weimar, he's the one I'm after, I'll go for him. Now something's stabbed in the back. So it's basically going to rise up to its full height, which I can say is about 9 foot tall. Again, letting out these strange roars that come out as various different voices crying for help. And it's going to basically thrash around and try and throw you off, Cameron. So I'm going to ask if you can make me a strength roll, Cameron. If you succeed, it's not going to be able to attack you this turn, whereas if it throws you off, it's going to try and swipe you with its claw.
Ooh, success.
Okay, so for the rest of its action, it basically rears up to its full height and sort of like staggers backwards, sort of going like this, trying to throw you off, but you're sort of clinging onto your knife. Okay, back round to you guys again.
Okay, so so it's still upright, I guess is the word. Okay, so what I want to try and do now, as if the first idea wasn't bad enough, is with so I'm hanging out my left hand with the knife in his neck, effectively. And what I'm trying to do is with my tomahawk then is to try and, come in from the side and try and do real damage to his neck with the hope of taking its head off.
Okay. Go for
it. 19, I guess, is a hit for 3
that'll
points.
do it. Okay, so you stab into the creature, and again it howls out in this strange sort of bestial cry for help. Okay, Weimar, this creature's withdrawn. You can see as it's thrashing around, you see that Cameron like clinging to the back of it. And
is the creature doing anything specific?
It's basically just thrashing around, trying to get Cameron off its back.
All right, okay. Shaking around.
Yeah.
So what I'm gonna do is, because it's very much focused on whatever happening behind its head, so gonna get an oil bottle and like just run past it, like try and dump the oil, like using it as like flinging at the creature with the oil flask, so like stripes of oil on his face and side, I guess, because I'm running past it.
Yeah, that's not a problem. I'm not even going to make a roll for that because you're just trying to like splash oil on it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
the idea being that I'm setting it up for like if things are going to go down, I'm going to set it on fire.
Not a problem. You run past this thrashing beast and splash your oil all over it. Mm-hmm. Oscar.
Right. It's reared up, so therefore it's exposed its softer underbelly, all being well. So I shall go in with an upper thrust.
Go for it.
Into its guts. all being well. Oh, no.
Okay, so you go in with your spear. However, because it's thrashing around, you're just about to stab in when it turns around, and you sort of realise that you're probably going to stab Cameron because he's sort of like flailing around at the back of it. So you like stop short. Okay,
Yeah.
so with its action, it's going to do a claw attack against Weimar and a claw attack against Oscar because it can't get at Cameron because he's on the back of it. Okay, so. What's your AC, Weimar?
It's 12.
Okay, so that's hit Weimar. How about yourself, Oscar?
13.
Okay, so it just failed to hit you. So you duck back out of the way as this giant claw goes like that. Okay, so let's see how much damage that's done to Weimar. Okay, you take 4 hit points of damage, Weimar.
Okay.
As this huge claw goes and rakes across you. And again, this creature, its face sort of snapping closed jaws, is like, help! Okay, back to you guys.
Okay, so I'm gonna keep trying to get it in the neck.
Okay, go for it.
12.
Okay, I'm afraid that's not enough. So you're trying to stab it. However, as you do that, it actually sort of scrapes itself against one of these stone buildings, forcing you to like disengage and roll off the back of it.
Okay. So when it does that, I'll try and roll to out of its line of sight behind the building.
That's fine. Okay, one more.
Okay. Just gonna deduct the oil flask there. I guess I'm gonna put the torch. This isn't the first time he's been doing something like this, and it's mostly because there's occasionally a time for burning arrows.
Indeed.
And you don't always have a brazier to have the fire. So he has a sling for a torch, like a lit torch, because it's the oil rags burning on it. So he has a sling on the hip to like put the flaming torch, so he can like fly out the arrows from there. But yeah, it just puts the torch there. Gonna, I guess, run to the opposite direction from Cameron as I can.
Okay.
And yeah, trying to see like what the thing does next.
Okay, so are you actually throwing a torch at it, or are you?
No, I'm just putting the torch on my belt, basically, to hang there until further notice, and running away as quickly as I can, away from the bear to the opposite direction from Cameron.
Yeah, not a problem. You do that. It seems to be more focused at the minute on Cameron and Oscar. So as you sort of like leave the threat range, and you're not obviously making any aggressive moves, it sort of seems to lose a bit of interest in you.
Right. Okay.
Oscar.
That claw was very big and very close, so I'm going to go defensive now. Set this spear in the ground and just use it to defend myself against it.
Okay, no problems. I can't remember how bracing works, but I know there is an option to do that.
Yeah, there's for charging enemies. It hurts them like double.
Okay.
Okay.
I think.
I'll tell you what. Since it's important,
I have it here. So
you've got it here.
So
okay.
yeah. So bracing against the ground doubles damage against charging monsters.
I presume you need to still make an attack though.
Yeah. So when you hit, then it's double.
Okay. So
Alright.
what I will say
Sorry.
is, since it's eventually barreling towards you guys anyway, if you want to make an attack this round with your like braced spear, if you're successful, it will do double damage because it is pretty much charging you and Cameron.
Oh, no.
Okay.
No, I didn't get it set, so... Right.
So you're just sort of like getting it set when this thing barrels in, and it's pretty much like knocks it out of the way with the bulk of its body as it barrels towards you and Cameron. Okay, so for its attack, it is going to do a couple of claw attacks against Oscar and a bite attack against Cameron.
Oh, crap. I'm dead. My life flashes before me. Ooh, not yet.
No, it doesn't.
What?
Okay, what's your AC, Cameron? That was the bite.
13.
Okay, so the last one, the bite attack, has hit Cameron, and one of the claws has hit Oscar. Okay, so the claw attack does you 3 hit points of damage, Oscar.
Oh, Oscar falls back, spread eagle on the ground, and just lies there.
Okay. So with one swipe of its paw, it takes Oscar down to the ground. Then it sinks its teeth into you, Cameron, doing 3 hit points of damage.
Okay.
You ought to think yourself lucky in it didn't hit you with both of its claws.
Well, does death arrive at negative numbers then?
Yeah, what I tend to do is I say you can go to like negative numbers equal to your level, so obviously -1 for you guys.
How many hit
Right.
points did you have?
3.
3.
You've only got 3.
Yeah,
You've only
yeah.
got 3.
Start with 4.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me from the last campaign.
Yep.
Okay, right. So
So
yeah,
he's unconscious.
Oscar's down. He's not dead, but he's looking in a bad way.
Okay.
Yeah, he bonked his head.
He's basically just like lying flat on his back in the snow. Okay, on to you guys. Come on.
Okay, so he swiped at Oscar. He bit me. Weimar is
I'm some distance away.
okay.
Yeah,
he
he's
has
basically
oil
some
on it.
distance away. But like he sprayed it with oil. He's some distance away. He's got his like torch ready.
Okay.
Yeah, he's about to light some arrows on fire and shoot the thing.
Okay. So what I want to try and do then is I want to swing around behind this creature
Okay.
and try and smack it in the back of the knee and try and do enough damage to its leg to make it difficult for it to walk. And then I want to hightail it in the total opposite direction of Weimar. So I'm a good 20, 25 feet away from it when
Okay,
it
that's
actually gets on
fine.
fire.
Make your attack roll.
No.
Okay, so obviously because it's your move, you can still do the run bit, but you're sort of so intent on like getting a bit of a sprint start that you sort of just like lash out wildly and it doesn't hit the creature. Okay, Weimar, you can see Cameron's like running away from it in the opposite direction. Oscar's like lying on the floor. The creature's like turning its head around to look at his body lying in the snow.
Yeah. One of my prepared arrows, like just a bit of cloth soaked in oil, wrapped around it, attach it to the torch, shoot it
Okay,
with
go
the
for it.
longbow at the thing. This would be a time to hit, I think. That's ranged, though it doesn't really matter. Okay, so I think this is what I... Whoop. No, that is not a time to hit, apparently.
Okay, so one of your flaming arrows sort of spirals through the air. It lands like a foot to the right of the creature, and there's a tss as it like sinks into the snow. Okay, the creature starts not paying any attention to the sort of hissing of the arrow. Starts running after Cameron, and it's got enough move to cover the distance you've made easily as it sort of drops back down to all fours and barrels towards you. However, it's not got enough move to do that and attack. So it's basically just sort of like got near to you and then it's risen up like.
Okay.
Over to you guys.
Okay. So, is there any trees nearby?
You're a good distance away from like the mainstay of the Whale Song Forest, but there probably are a few trees sort of dotted here and there, although they're slightly stunted compared to the great pines of the forest.
Okay. Are there any that I think I could get up that would give me enough height that I would be safe from this 9-foot bear?
You think it? Well, if you make a strength check, you could probably get up one of those trees. It probably wouldn't be safe for very long because like it's a 9-foot bear with like massive claws. And these are just like fairly thin trees, but it might buy you some time.
Okay. And can I do that after attacking, or do I have to give up my attack for that climb?
You would have to give your attack up to climb because you'd have to like move to the tree and then like.
Okay, so what I'd like to do then is that effectively try and climb up a tree out of its.
That's fine. I won't make you make a roll since you're like sacrificing all your move to like do it. So you run and sprint and like this fairly sort of like thin pine. And you quickly like scale up it. The bear immediately sort of like still raised up, sort of like brings its paws down on the tree and starts to lean against it. And you hear this as the tree starts like listing over as this like 9-foot skull bear thing's like pushing all its weight on the tree.
Okay.
One more. You can see this ferocious beast like pushing over this tree that's got camerons in the branches of it.
Second arrow.
Okay.
I've got 40 of them, so we're gonna keep doing this.
Keep that arrow train rolling.
Yeah. Okay. Here goes. Just because it might work. Praise Gale.
There you go. Okay.
So,
I'm also going to ask you to roll me a d6.
Okay. Let's see if I have. Here we go. 2.
Okay. So your arrow sinks into the back of this beast, which howls in pain, and it catches the oil on fire. So that flames start to lick around. It obviously doesn't burst into flames because it's damp. It's been in the snow, but there is like smouldering of its fur, and it's obviously in a good deal of distress. And I'm actually, since it's now down to like pretty much half hit points and it's been set on fire, I'm going to make a morale check for it.
Yeah, that's usually when I make a morale check as well.
Which it fails. So the bear with like flames licking out of its fur turns northwestwards and it romps off into the distance, heading for the Whale Song Forest.
I'm gonna. I'm not gonna put out the torch. I'm gonna let it be for a little while though. Like this is obviously very unsafe. Like having a lit torch tied to basically the side of your leg. But this isn't the first time he's risked this, and he's gonna keep risking it for a little while more because he's not in danger of immediately burning himself. No. So just gonna run to Oscar to check if he's still there.
To be honest as well, if you were like, oh, the torch is starting to catch on, like trousers on fire, just drop in the snow. Oh, that's that dealt with.
Yeah. In the dry homelands, it was different. In the plains, indeed it was. Very different.
So yeah, you run over to Oscar. You can see he's still breathing, although it's shallow, and he's got this like deep scratch mark across his chest that's gone through his like furs and his winter clothes.
Yeah. So I'm gonna get about like doing what I can to clean it, and yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Obviously, you guys know that the way the healing works. So a day's rest basically gets you like D3 hit points back.
Yeah.
So you know he's going to need some like serious rest and recuperation.
Yeah.
Okay. So while he's doing that, I think that we'd want to be setting up some sort of making the strongest, whichever these houses is the strongest, like the kind of barricading it up and giving ourselves somewhere relatively safe to kind of stay and hide.
Yeah. That's absolutely fine. With Horatio like, helping you, as you're able to like persuade him out of his hut. Now the danger has passed. Obviously, he can tell you where like stuff is that's in the village, so you're able to basically like gather up the remnants of furniture, old doors, such like that, and you find the most intact building and sort of like barricade yourselves into it.
Yeah. Okay.
Seeing,
we should do that.
As you're doing this, sort of seeing like Oscar, where you've sort of like propped him up in the sort of corner of the building you're defending. Horatio like runs back into the remnants of his old house, and he comes out like a very small leather pouch. He takes out what appears to be a number of green leaves, and he basically puts them in his mouth, chews them all up, and like spits this like gobbet of like greenery and saliva into his hand, and then he starts sort of like daubing it over the large chest wound that Oscar had. Oscar, you can regain 1 hit point.
His eyes flutter open. Ow, 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 ow. Is it dead? Am I dead?
Horatio's like, lie still. You're not dead. I think the thing's gone for now. I'm sorry. I only had I'm no apothecary, but I know some of the skills of treating minor wounds and such like for the woodsman. But I've used all the supplies I had in my little hut, but you still need rest, and you're sort of like trying to like rise up, and he's like very gently sort of like saying, no, you need to like rest, just stay where you are, and he'll try and like grab like I don't know some probably some like old raggedy furs, and he like puts them over you. He's obviously trying to keep you warm, and like takes his own jacket off and like puts it over you.
Oh, thank you. I'll rest.
Okay. So sometime over the course of the day, assuming nothing else goes wrong, I'd like to do some foraging in the forest if I can, to get us enough food to get us through the day without eating into our rations.
Okay, that's fine. So make your roll for foraging. It's a d6 roll.
I think that's
Standard chances are 1 in 6.
I think that's doubled for me. Yeah, no, that's a miss. Yeah. Fine.
Okay, so you do a bit of foraging, but obviously you're not really, because this thing's still out there. You're not really prepared to go quite as far abroad to like the edge of the forest as you did previously. So you maybe find like a few odd bits of like spoiled like provisions from like the townsfolk, but it's not really enough to like make a great deal of difference. So you will all need to like consume at least one of your rations.
Okay.
Another question is anyone going to feed Horatio?
I will this time. Well, actually, he got fed today already, right?
Yeah.
So I won't today, but I will
Yeah.
make sure he's fed tomorrow, if that
That's
makes
fine.
sense.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
Okay.
Okay, so you barricade yourself in this building, and for the rest of the day, nothing particularly untoward happens. You spend the whole day barricaded in there. Oscar, you can roll a d3 and regain that many hit points.
Can we all do that?
Oh yeah. Anyone who's resting for the day can regain d3 hit points.
Right, I'll do it.
Oh.
Half a d6. Ooh. Yay. Healthy.
Okay, so like the next day after we've all rested, can we basically search through the village and find anything of value?
Okay.
The timber, the fuel, oil. I guess there's no animals left, but food and medicine, anything like that there might be around.
Okay, so you're just about to head out of your sort of barricaded building to go and explore the village when outside you hear a voice going,
Oh, fuck. Okay.
It's like, please, somebody help.
What help do you need? I'll call out in desperation.
Oh.
Okay. Now, here's a question. Would we have thought about putting kind of rifle holes in the barricade that we could potentially shoot him through?
I would say potentially you haven't thought about putting holes, but given the state of this building, it's not going to be difficult to find like places you can sort of poke your rifle out of.
Okay.
Although taking a shot would be quite difficult because obviously you can't really like see out, and then you'd have to sort of like look through and go, "Oh, there it is."
Yeah. Okay. So I still think I'd like to do that.
Okay, that's fine.
It's okay.
So you peer out through the little hole, and you can indeed see this large creature. Obviously, it's rolled around in the snow. It's no longer on fire, although it still bears the marks of your previous encounter, and it's sort of like rooting around in the village. And every now and again, it opens its mouth, and you hear this.
Okay. So I'll just take the shot then.
Go for
it. 16.
Okay. So there's a loud. Don't forget, you need to roll your d10. There's a for your misfire chance.
Oh, that's on every shot, is it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
There's a 2 in 10 chance of it misfiring.
So that would be 3 in 10. So I think I'm okay.
No problem. So there is a loud crack for a few moments. The inside of the building you're in is full of this thick, choking smoke, but the shot does go out. It hits this creature. You hear it roar, and obviously I'm going to make another morale check for it. Which it succeeds at, so you can still hear this creature moving around outside the building. You hear this chewing sound followed by like a sickening sort of wet snapping sound as it begins to once more sort of gobble up the remnants of the villagers' bodies that are lying around.
Okay. So I don't think we want to go out, do we? Weimar?
We don't need to yet.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we can afford to wait it out for a little bit longer.
So I guess then I'll just reload and over the course of the next minute or two try and take another shot.
Go for
it. 12.
Okay, roll your d10, see if you misfire.
Nope.
Okay, you fire another shot. It doesn't hit the creature. However, after a while, you hear it sort of heavy footfalls retreating into the distance. You can hear like it's obviously like dragging something with it, perhaps one of the bodies from the village.
Okay.
You can hear the sound of it sliding over the snow as it heads into the distance.
Yeah. Okay, so once it's gone, then what I'm very keen on at the moment is to find a second or a third rifle, so that the next time it comes, I can potentially get off 3 shots very quickly.
Where's Horatio's pistol? Did they bring it?
He didn't. It's still in his hood. He just sort of left it where you slapped onto the floor. But yeah, you guys poke your head out. You can see that the creature isn't about. So you quickly make your way to Horatio's hood. You've now got like a flintlock pistol. He's quite happy for you to take it.
Okay. Do you want to take that, Weimar?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so you have a pistol that does D8 damage.
D8 pistol.
There's one sort of shot of black powder with it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So I'll get that loaded.
And I guess if it doesn't come back and we're searching through the huts, do we find anything else of value?
Okay, most of what's in the village appears to have been destroyed. However, let me just make a couple of rolls. Okay, you do find sort of throughout the, I mean, it's not all in one place, it's throughout the village. You do find 27 gold pieces.
Okay.
You also, thanks to help from Horatio, you find what appear to be like 3 sort of like large bundles of like food. And he says, he tells you that those are the supplies that they were planning to sort of send to your village.
Okay. So I'll kind of take Weimar aside from Horatio and Oscar and suggest that maybe we should set a trap for this creature somehow. That it looked badly wounded, and that maybe there's something that we could do to snare it somehow and attack it from range while it was trapped.
John, being a trapper, or hunter, I guess, and Cameron being a trapper, do we have the materials to fashion some kind of bear-capable trap with the scrap we have to hand and our like ropes and whatever?
Roll me a d6.
Okay. 5?
Yeah, you think, I mean, obviously, if you're going for like a sort of like pit trap sort of style deal, you could probably do that, you know, sort of dig a big pit, cover it with like debris and sort of loose rubble from the thing. You could probably even scrounge up enough sort of wood to put like wooden spikes in it. It'd take you a while, obviously, but you've got all the equipment.
Do we want to try?
Yeah, I'd like a silver cloak.
Slightly
So somewhat charred, but only charred on the front, right? The back of it should be fine.
I mean, charred silver is still silver, I guess.
And there's a lot of eating on a bear, although maybe not this particular bear.
Is, and we could take all the fat from that and be good for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Okay, so John, I suppose we're gonna institute a labor camp and also a watch, because someone needs to be on the lookout all the time. So.
Okay, so who's going on watch while you're doing this trap?
I shall.
Okay, so Oscar, roll me a d6.
You would say that.
Okay, so as they're digging this trap and as you're watching, you don't see any sign of this creature reappearing. You guys dig out this pit, like, say you put like wooden stakes at the bottom of it, you cover it over with rubble. Now, obviously, someone else, you're going to have a law, or someone's going to have to draw the creature into this trap.
Is there a corpse we can use?
There are still a couple of corpses lying about, yeah. You notice Horatio goes a bit pale when he sort of like sees the corpses.
Yeah, I'll go and drag 2 of them to act as bait.
Okay, not a problem. So whilst you're waiting for this creature to like potentially fall into your trap, where are you guys going to situate yourself?
So are the buildings like 1 story or 2 story?
1 story.
Okay. So I think we should spread out, and I suggest that if you guys stay in the one that we barricade, or Weimar, you stay there, and I stay just one like directly opposite the trap, then we could both, you know, potentially be shooting at it from different angles and confuse it. And then we kind of want to set both doors up that we can kind of retreat into the house should the creature not fall into the trap and come after us, which will allow the other one then to kind of attract its attention and then drag it back onto the trap potentially.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you set that up as described, and a few hours later, Oscar, you spot this creature sort of emerging from the whale song forest, obviously heading back towards the
Here
village.
it comes.
And again, you can hear in the distance this, as it moves into the village. Okay, so I'm going to ask, since you set up the trap, Weimar, Can you roll me a d6? I'm going to say you've got a 1 to 4 chance of it going into the trap because it likes eating dead villagers, and you've put 2 there.
Yeah. Praise Gale. Yeah, here we go.
Okay, so as you're watching, the creature moves on to like the bits of wood and whatever that you've put over the trap to eat the corpses of these villagers. There's a loud cracking sound as the thin covering you put on top of the pit gives way beneath this great beast. Weimar, can you please roll me a d6 to see how much damage it takes from the wooden stakes? Okay, so you hear it howl as it sort of falls in and these stakes puncture it. You can see it's obviously like thrashing around and trying to like claw to like climb its way out. But before it gets a chance to do that, you guys will get a chance to act. Because obviously you've set this up, you were waiting for this.
Okay, so I think I would like to run out of the house, come up to the pit, shoot into the pit, and then hightail it back to the house.
That's fine, go for it.
12 is a miss, I think, is it?
It would be normally, however, I'm giving you guys a bonus because like it's not moving.
Oh, it's misfired. Sorry.
Okay, so you've got it banged to rights, and you're like, oh, I've got you now. And as you like squeeze the trigger, there's just like a, obviously like some damp's got into your powder, and just like a thin like wisp of smoke comes out of it.
Okay.
Okay, Weimar. So you've seen sort of like camera run up and be like, ha ha.
Yep. So that's my cue. I burst out of our house with the pistol to the edge, shoot it like it was a bear in a barrel.
Okay.
So it's a D10.
Yep.
Let's go.
Okay, so yours hasn't misfired, so make your attack roll. Okay, so you've hit it. I'm basically only making you do attack rolls because it rolls the damage. You're not going to miss it wherever it is at the minute. Okay, so there's the deafening echo of your pistol. You hit it square in its like bony skull face. You hear the crack of the sort of bony plating on its visage, and it lets out one last sort of squealing cry that this time sounds like a child squealing for help, and then it slowly collapses onto its side and lies still, twitches for a few moments, and then
I'm gonna go to Horace, and I'm just gonna like put a heavy hand on his shoulder. It's like, is this a creature that is common in on this side of the river?
He says, I've never seen anything like it before. He says, although and he sort of like looks at the remnants of one of like the bodies, which is sort of half lying in the pit, and he looks like he's going to throw up for a few moments. And he says, the village elders and some of our hunters said they'd encountered all manner of strange creatures near some old ruins in the depths of the forest. I think it must have come from there. Well, whatever devil this is, and he like spits into the pit onto like the body of this creature.
Yeah, I just look at Oscar with like big eyes and just like shake my head at all this. And I'll took the pistol away and say, well, if we've all just volunteered to reel out this monstrosity from the pit that we just dug, so get to it. And I'll take from my pack. I have a grappling hook and a bit of rope, so we're gonna use that to.
Not a problem. It takes a fair old amount of time, and it's heavy, sweaty work. But you eventually heave this like behemoth out of the pit, and it's lying there in the snow now. This huge mass of fur, bone, and claws. You can see like the sort of shattered like hole on the centre of its like forehead carapace where your shot has entered, and obviously that exploded most of its brain.
Okay, so I guess then what I want to do is get down and skin it, so that we can keep its hide, and then
Okay, roll me a
Assuming
d6, anything but a 1, and you've got a basket.
okay. Oh, not so much.
Okay, so with the burning and the you think the skin's not in such a good way, to be honest. Half it's cloaked, some of it's covered in blood, some of it's been like hacked off by you guys hacking at it, part of it's burnt. You're like, it's not really going to be worth doing. However, what you have managed to salvage is you've managed to salvage like most of the skull of the creature, because like aside from like the sort of small hole there, that's in fairly good nick.
Okay. And is there any meat on it worth salvaging?
There is indeed. There is 5 rations worth of meat on this giant beast, which, since it was only sort of cosmetic damage you did to it, most of the meat's actually fine. It takes you a good few hours to like, 'cause you're obviously like properly skinning it and make sure not to like ruin it or puncture the stomach or anything. But you eventually sort of strip it down and take all of this meat off it.
Okay.
Could I have one of those bear claws?
I was just about to say, Oscar, that we're gonna take all this and the teeth.
Yep, you can take the teeth and the 4 bear claws.
Yep. So
Well, bear paws, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they'll get the paws and then deal with the rest later, and like prize out the fangs.
Yeah, absolutely
Right.
fine. Make a note that you've got those on your character sheet.
Yeah. So Oscar, if you want a paw, you can put that down.
Will do.
I'll keep this horse if nobody minds.
Yeah. It's fine.
You think sort of looking at the horse, you could probably, if you weren't riding it, you could probably sort of put like the 3 loads of supplies onto the horse and just sort of like lead it and get the horse to carry those, so it didn't slow you down. Because otherwise, each of you carrying one of these huge bundles of supplies, you'd be moving fairly slow.
Plus, the horse can swim through the water as well, following the canoe. So that would be another way of getting it. And then, is it Horatio McGee or Horace?
Oh yeah, Horatio.
Horatio McGee.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was exciting.
Horatio, would you like to join us to come to New Zealand? And this doesn't feel like a good place for you to stay on your own.
He says, yes, I think that's the best. He says, if you don't mind, if I can find any more of the villagers, I'd like to bury them.
Yep, we can definitely help you bury them.
Yeah, so you again, it takes a few hours, but you have a look around. You do find a few more sort of bodies like a short distance away from the village, and you help Horatio dig some graves for them. And he's obviously not like a priest or anything, but he sort of says a few heartfelt words, and he gets quite choked up as you're doing this. And he says a few heartfelt words over their bodies, and then he asks for a moment. Then after about 15-20 minutes, he sort of comes back to where you guys have sort of moved off a little bit, and he says, I think I'm ready to go now.
Okay. So then I suggest we head back to New Zealand with the news, and our food.
Indeed. So over the course of the next day, you make your way back to New Zealand. They're obviously disturbed by the news about this creature and that the destruction of Castlemaine, but that's tempered by how happy they are that you've bought these three bundles of food, which are added to like the village stores, and they're sort of put away in one of these storage buildings, for the winter, for supplies. The alderman of the village thanks you, and he says he sort of puts a comforting arm around Horatio, and he says, "Well, we're all deeply sorry for your loss, Mr. McGee, but as long as we are here, you are welcome to stay with us and share what little we have." And then he turns to the 3 of you and says, these supplies you've bought us will stand us in greater stead against the oncoming winter. I know this is
I'd rather had neighbors though. I like butt in.
No, he nods and he says, "I completely agree, Mr. Lone Grove, but we have to take the hand we are dealt, and it's all of our jobs." And he gestures at the villagers, they've also like gathered around to hear this tale. It's all of our jobs to make sure that the same fate does not befall New Zealand as met our unfortunate neighbours in Castlemaine. And he gestures some of the villagers. He says, please take a ratio here indoors, get him some food, get him warmed up." And they take him off. He pauses momentarily and he says thank you all. I honestly that thing would have taken me next had you not come along. I don't have anything to offer you to show my thanks. Obviously the pistol, you are more than welcome to keep it. I'm afraid I don't have anything else to offer you but my thanks.
Yeah, well, I feel like you do, because we're gonna need everyone for the winter, and then after winter we're gonna need everyone for the summer. After the summer, we're going to need everyone for the winter. So, my friend, there's a lot we all can give. Don't worry about that.
He nods and says, "I'll do my best. Perhaps my knowledge of herbs and hunting can be of some use, but whatever I can do to help is the least I can do, given the kindness that you've all shown me here." And he's sort of taken away by some of the rest of the villagers to get warmed up. And I think as why am I saying after the winter comes the summer, after the summer comes the winter, I think that's where we fade out for this session. You each gain 150 XP. Thank you very much for playing, guys. I hope you enjoyed that little sort of mini first session.
Yeah,
very good. Yeah.
So I'm going to end the stream here. So thank you to anyone who's watching this either now or in the future. We hope you enjoyed it, and we hope we'll catch you again. Take care.